One of the largest attractions in the Adirondack Park is historic Fort Ticonderoga. And coming up next weekend, the fort is hosting one of its largest reenactments ever, the two-day 1759 Siege of Carillon, when British troops captured the fort from the French during the French and Indian War. It's coming right on the heels of a big celebration at the fort, the completion of the first phase of a $70 million renovation. Our Jack LaDuke shows us.
As soon as the traditional ribbon cutting was over, invited guests walked through the doors of the fully renovated home of the people who rebuilt Fort Ticonderoga.
So I saw it when it was torn apart. I went through it when it was halfway through, and it was absolutely stunning to walk up the walk today and see the finished project. So I'm excited to get inside.
But what's remarkable about this site, as opposed to some other forts and historic sites, is how the built environment continued to evolve over the next couple of centuries.
In 1909, Sarah and Stephen Pell initiated one of America's earliest restoration efforts, rebuilding Fort Ticonderoga. The pavilion near the fort was completed at the same time, becoming their home. Both the fort and the pavilion overlook Lake Champlain. After decades, the pavilion underwent a fire, some neglect, and now, after a $9 million facelift, it's open once again to the public. One of the distinguished guests at the pavilion in 1909 was President William Howard Taft, the 27th President of the United States. The towering pavilion was originally the family home of the Pells, using Lake Champlain as their travel corridor.
William Ferris Pell, who was a wealthy merchant, in 1826 constructed the pavilion, which was his family home. It was his summer family home. He would travel between Montreal and New York City. He had an office in Burlington, and this was a likely great spot to stop. Further, it was a beautiful location. It had the ruins of the fort as a backdrop, and so William initiated the construction of the pavilion, and it served as his family home until about 1839. By 1840, it had become a hotel, and of course the steamboats were coming up and down Lake Champlain here. There was a steamboat dock, and it was very fashionable to take the northern tour.
By the 19th century, the scene had changed to train travel. Steamboats were out. The pavilion became a farmhouse for tenant workers. During the fort's reconstruction, the Pells traveled far to collect the right material for their famous museum.
They went all over the nation to collect, and the world, frankly. They had solicitors across the world to collect objects associated with our military heritage. And really the whole period, what historians call the early modern period, from 1609 through 1815. Sarah Pell said that the site as a place to visit was fine, but for the thinking people, they would like to see objects as well.
For all we know, Samuel de Champlain, while exploring Lake Champlain in 1609, might have anchored off the shore of the pavilion for a night. Today, weddings can be arranged here, as well as business conferences, evoking an important era of the historic development of our country. For Mountain Lake Journal, I'm Jack LaDuke in Ticonderoga.
Jack LaDuke's Adirondack Journal on Mountain Lake PBS is made possible with support by Northline Utilities.